Hello, this is Naziaty Mohd Yaacob, your Talk Architecture podcast host, reminding you that I have an Instagram page which is at rediscover_architect. I help architects overcome stress and burnout by getting clear of the problem and solving it within 3 months. That being said, today's topic is on architects and mental health. I'd like to continue this series on architects and mental health, and we're talking about something that I've been also discussing on architecture education and the magic formula that is needed to create the new architecture curriculum. However, I'd like to digress a bit and talk about it in terms of the mental health of the architect or the well-being of the architect. And the creative process is very much essential in all that the architect does. Have you considered how creativity was approached when you started doing architecture from the beginning? When you were an architectural student, did you actually notice how creativity was being approached by yourself? After a while, creativity becomes more of the problems with production. It's becoming more of producing things, the final product, the end game. It's not to do with the beginning or the creative process anymore. Creativity is to do with how does it look? How good does it look? The answer lies in the design process or the creative process when we talk about the essential things that is fulfilling in an architect's life. So what we do at the end of the day is that the architect having stress and burnout problems go back to the architectural creative process, or even the non-architectural creative process, such as designing, sketching, filmmaking, video making, creative journaling, creative writing, creative cooking, and other things rather than architecture. Because architecture practice or the day-to-day architecture work doesn't provide the essential creativity or the creative process to be developed. Yes, creative expression helps the architect to get back to the sense of wonder, curiosity, and adventure in design. Cooking, for example, you need to structure and compose the ingredients to come up with the best tasting dish, a sensorial experience. Hence, there is a creative expression involved. So we don't necessarily try to find creative expression in our day-to-day work as an architect. These creative expressions that we do, for example, painting with acrylics on a different subject matter, anything really, landscape, portrait, object painting. We do a series of reflection and creative routines in the everyday by having these creative expressions, which we try to compensate or provide a balance to our lives in these routines. Thus, we are in touch with our creative self. This is one of those ways to overcome the stress and burnout symptoms that we get from overwork, overthinking, anxieties, getting bullied at the office or not getting the right deal and feeling injustice, kind of like emotions that we call them anger and frustration and some emotions of sadness and a sense of loss, even, in terms of losing ourselves, um, and having to, sacrifice. But if the sacrifice that we do is beneficial for us and is not wrought with all sorts of undignified or uncomfortable feelings, we're fine with it, I suppose. Well, most of us would be, but it is not. It is feelings of unjustified, feelings of being, shall we say, off balance and losing ourselves and feeling that we dread, in the morning when we wake up, we dread going to work and having to face quarrelsome consultants or clients or co-workers. Well, that's some of the situations that some of us have to go through, and sometimes not having a choice to leave the employment because of we can't get employment elsewhere, or we need the money to survive for our for ourselves, our families, and so on. Some things are just unconducive. How do I help architects overcome the stress and burnout problems that they get? How do they achieve clarity of their problem? Because often when people come to me, they're not sure. They know the feelings are uncomfortable feelings and this is not happening. And maybe a lot of the problem is elsewhere, but the roots of the problem is somewhere else. Which if we have yet to dug up and find out more. So that's needing that, getting clear of the problem. And it takes about a couple of weeks to actually find out what it is, the problem, and then resolving that. And actually trying to find a purpose one have with architecture, because you started out feeling purposeful, that architecture is your career, that you embrace architecture to be the path for your self-fulfilling goals and achievement in life. So talking about architecture and mental health, we are talking about the everyday situation. The waking up in the morning, going to work and having to work. Usually, many of us work in a company 9 to 5 or more, and some of us work as the boss or being self-employed, or some of us work in freelance. They have their problems in each one of the situation, dedicated problems or problems that is associated with the particular employment that you are in. And there are also just general problems and problems which could be related to your mental well-being of being an architect at that time, or previous problems unsolved. So we get to that clarity of exactly what the problem is with the person who is engaged with the program. I've said many things just now, but I'm going to go into them more deeper for the rest of this episode. And I hope that you could understand that these things are not to be underestimated, as they could cause small problems later on, or can lead you to despair and mental health disorders, such as depression, and especially depression. We don't discount other mental health disorders, which could be related to your childhood problems. And that could be resolved with a professional. such as a psychiatrist psychiatrist. Going back into what I could help you is that I could ask you what creative things you do every day. Going back to the everyday, when you wake up in the morning. Do you carry those thoughts and concerns and anxieties of yesterday again this morning? The one that you before you slept, if you get to sleep, a deep sleep. If you did get a deep sleep, that's fine. And you wake up in the morning and you feel refreshed and you're not thinking about the same problems. Or if you got a deep sleep and then you reminded yourself of the problem of yesterday. First thing in the morning, which is not a good thing. What would be a good thing is to do something else like exercise or do some not heavy work, but something that is active, you need to go and move around, move about, like cleaning the room or making your bed and maybe cooking for your spouse or your partner and things like that before you go and get ready for work. So there need to be like an hour before you really need to get yourself prepared to go to work. So what would be good within that hour or 1.5 hours is to actually write or start writing about things in a journal. That could unpack a lot of things that you have thought previously on the previous day, or things that is to do with topics that you are interested in. Something to relieve your mind of the problems that you have at your office, or the dread that you have or you usually had when you think about going to the office. Individuals or people that you may be thinking of, which keep cropping in your mind, associated with feelings of anxiety, feelings of dread, fear, and sadness or anger. These feelings, these uncomfortable feelings, are there for a reason. They're part of you. You can't really get rid of them, but you can't let them control you. You can't let anger control you. You can't let sadness control you. It's not the right way to live. The right way meaning the right way is a balanced way of accepting, of doing the best you can for the day. To get yourself to be balanced early in the morning is essential. That's the target of it all. And creative expression helps for you to do that. At hand, what do you have to do creative expressions? Often is to journal something and unpacking things that are burdened, or just going into a topic and writing around that topic. The topic could be anything from anger or fear, or writing about the day's events or the previous day's events, or writing out an episode or something that occurred in the week or even yesterday. And when you do that, a sense of accomplishment occur, a sense of finishing something or completing something early in the morning makes you feel better. And then you can be prepared for the day's event. Trying to get a balance is essential. So being prepared for the day's events, not being prepared for the defense that you need to do, or the defense mechanism which will naturally come out from within you, but just being generally prepared that these things will occur. The problems will occur at the office. But how do you manage yourself in the day when you're at work, in a meeting? There are pauses that is needed to be done to create that balance again, now and then. Every 20 minutes will be the best or recommended. But of course, to be honest with you. Sometimes we get carried away. You get carried away with something. You can't remember, 20 minutes, I gotta like reset myself. It's not happening. Usually you get a bit stressed out and uncomfortable feeling and you just need to get out of the office. If that's the situation that happens. Even if you are the supervisor of someone else, you would also get into an uncomfortable situation because you could be a middle manager that deals with the senior or the director and also people who are under your care or your supervision, and it's not helpful from the top, it's not helpful from the bottom, and you kind of feel like you're stuck and you're not getting any support. It could be that you can quit your job, but you can't afford to quit your job, obviously. How do you deal with it, with that matter? Another way is that you could end up screaming in your car, really tired out of this situation. How do you do some reflection in the midst of all this uncomfortableness? When you first receive a reaction from someone, you could say that to yourself, this person is just, shall we say, projecting their fears or projecting their anger on me by saying those things. And you do not want to make assumptions of some difficulties that's happening at the office. So you do a bit of reflection. A bit of reflection needs to be done. You can reflect upon those things at that moment in time and think about it, or you could get out of the room and try to meditate, get a balance and get some sense into you that this has nothing to do with me. I'm not taking this personally and I'm not making any assumptions, but I need to get this sorted. So you need to be impeccable with your words. So some of these statements are important to just be like guidance in your life at the spur of the moment. You don't have to react to the email immediately. You don't have to react to that statement immediately. You don't have to react to the outbursts by any of those individuals. Now the thing is, people say, hey, stay calm. It's not your problem. And it's easier said than done to stay calm. But I want you to look at the word calm and turn it into balance. Stay balanced. You're on a tightrope. Try to stay balanced and not fall off that tightrope. To me, it is a tightrope balancing act rather than calm. This person is great because they are so calm. In actual fact, calm is that balancing act. No one is actually calm, actually. They have to be calm by balancing out, by not responding the first emotional outburst someone has. There could be silence and not outbursts. There could be something that you're thinking about. You are suspicious or you think there's something odd going on because there is no response from this person. And then to write that out, to not respond, is not right either, because that could be your job function that you need to ask what's the problem. Often we just react to things that is an active engagement, but we don't react to things that are not active, such as silence. I'm not being general with this. I'm trying to recall specific problems myself when I talk about this, because only then you can connect to your audience. For example, I'm thinking about things that I went through where I reacted to outbursts in a wrong, not a wrong way, but I reacted in a way that I thought it was a personal attack, or I made assumptions. And I learned from my lessons, so that's why I'm talking about it now. So, in general, we have the day-to-day situation at the office, so the day-to-day situation in architectural school, if you're a student, where there could be an outburst or there could be a statement that seems unfair and uncomfortable and no guidance, which happens as well in practice if you're an entry-level employee and you feel like, I feel uncomfortable because I want to be coached, I want to be trained, but the company policy is that you should be ready when you are jumping into the employment. Jumping into the job, being employed. You need to be ready, and we don't have time to train and coach you. There are places like that, and people are always grateful when they have mentors. There's another thing that I like to talk about: the importance of mentoring in architecture practice and, of course, architecture education. Why is architecture a subject that, or a professional, shall we say, a profession that needs to have skills and knowledge in how to collaborate with others, how to communicate with others, essentially, not just graphic communication, but verbal communication and interpersonal skills are very, very necessary. Sometimes we can't do much because it's about other people, and what we can do is help ourselves and back to creative expression and a series of reflection one could do as the day goes by. So you do your work, and then you have meetings, and in meetings there could be clashes, and you go back to doing your work, you go back to discussion, you go back to drawing, and then you're done for the day. Depending on your level of employment, if you're top management, there's a lot of meetings, and if you're middle management, there's some supervision, and if you're entry level, you just get on with your work. And at times you have recreational activities with your coworkers, or you go back. It doesn't have to be a drudgery. It doesn't have to be the same old. You can spice it up. You can slow the pace. You can quicken the pace. This is in your control. No one can force you to do what they want. And we often sometimes not give up, but try to put the blame on others, say, you wanted me to do this, so I did this. But if you get into that gameplay, or you get into that sort of relationship with your coworkers or your supervisor or your boss, it will be something that's not fulfilling. It's not going to solve any problem because you're not in control. Everyone is in control, whatever level of employment they are in. And often we think about being non-employed or leaving the job as something that is, we take it personally. Well, I had. And in the light of things and reflecting back, it was just a way for me to cope with that at that time. Whether or not it pulled me down is another story. Because emotions are there, feelings are there. You address the feeling of uncomfortableness. Oh, I was kicked out of the office, or they want me to quit. I'm no quitter. So you try to resolve that uncomfortable feeling by saying, okay, I'm no quitter, I'm going to do this job. And then sometimes you feel a bit lost with a new job and thinking that you're going to lose it again, but you persisted and you're happier. And those days are gone because that was during your 20s when you started out, and now you're in middle management. But in middle management, your feelings are about boredom or about unsatisfactory or problems or conflicts that you have with others, or it could be just that uninspiring situation. So whatever situation or position in employment that you are now in, you need to rediscover yourself, rediscover yourself in a way that you need some counseling. And I do help architects overcome stress and burnout by getting clear of the problem and solving it in 3 months' time. So that's one way you could do, or you could consult other counselors or other individuals. As someone who is trained in architecture, an architect myself, in principle, not a registered architect, but in practice, I do a lot of specialization on universal design, and I had also experience on user experience as well. I could assist in that regard with a program that highlights rediscovering self-discovery of yourself, creative expression, and getting the best tempo in your everyday life so that you can get that balance, and also to actually have a way to yourself and find unconditional love of yourself. So there you go. Thank you very much for listening. Have a great day wherever you are. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Cheers.